Hello.
Hello there.
This is Peppy, the lead developer of OS, and this is everything that changed since the last lazer update, starting with the bubble mod. So as you're playing, every part of an object creates a bubble that hides objects below. The difficulty of this comes mainly from map design. Freeform maps are pretty simple to play, while highly structured maps are whatever this is.
We've had a lot of mods implemented. This is one of the higher effort mods, I guess. It actually does a lot to the game. It's a really fun one to play, and I'd recommend giving it a try.
These are in Lazer 2.
Cursor ripples. This is one of those things which is supported in stable, and people seem to really like it. It's come up multiple times as a reason some users aren't willing to switch to lazer. So yay. What remains? Menu snow? I don't know. I don't play lazer because I don't have menus.
It's no mystery that lazer is aiming to be perfect in every possible way. Tiny changes like these, for example, just go to prove it. When snaking sliders were disabled, skins with end circles didn't fade in correctly. Slider balls in Argon fade out at the right speed now. And on the classic skin, combo colors that are too bright can now have black reverse arrows. Though it's not really necessary now that combo color normalization exists. Thanks for the niche edition, Peppy. Anyway, on to this. Previously, the key counter would still be active in break times, but not anymore. Oh, and there's also new key counters.
I still want to improve the animations a bit, and the reason why it's not showing up in gameplay yet is because the way the key counter is embedded into the HUD is in a very old way. It doesn't support the new skin layout system.
If you're used to playing in a small internal window, you'll be happy to know that this background can finally be dimmed. And not at all related, you can now update your mod presets. Before this, you'd have to make a whole new preset for any changes, so this is a major quality of life fix. Also, for the 3 people out there who play multiple modes competently, mod customization carries over when changing modes. You're welcome, person who doesn't exist. Speaking of other game modes, there's a few updates specific to each rule set. Like in Mania, releasing a long note too late won't cause this to happen anymore. In Taiko, there's resolution adjustment again.
This is like the 5th time we've changed this.
And in Catch, a massive combo won't lag anymore. Mapping is a special part of OS. Unlike some games that are satisfied with automatically generating content, every map in OS is handcrafted, and lazer is steadily reaching a point where it can be properly used for mapping. So first, developers heard your opinions from the last video.
This actually makes it so when you're dragging rotation, you can like hone in specific values, especially if you move your mouse cursor far away from the icon, you get like a lot of precision out of it. So for the people wanting like a text input box for rotation, sure, we're going to get to that, but this actually makes the drag control a lot better.
The default snap divisor is now 1/4. Pretty much every modern map uses this beat snap divisor, so setting it as the default simplifies the mapping process. In Taiko and Mania, the editor would just cut things off a bit. Now that's better. This also applies to people who map other modes, but in a super vertical window. I really hope no one was doing that. And this one's actually nice. So if you wanted to copy distance snap in a situation like this, you previously needed to move between the 2 objects. Now this assumes the distance from the previous object to this one, which is super helpful if you want to make, say, consistently spaced jumps. Slider velocity is now available in the hit object inspector. That's this thing on the side, which was part of the development process for some other long-needed slider velocity editor mechanics. More specifically, there's extra slider velocity stats in the timeline, and a base slider velocity setting in the setup menu.
I kind of forgot how slider velocity was implemented, and like the base slider multiplier actually decides what 1.0 is. And I apologize to the people in the discussion thread who were trying to tell me that it was required. And I was like, we don't need it because we have per object slider velocity, but it turns out it is required.
Also, slider tick rate is here now too. This one will actually help you a lot if you make a map in lazer, then import it to stable. Previously, maps would have this forest of green lines to account for slider velocity and hit sounds. This made editing lazer maps in stable completely stupid, but as of now, slider velocity changes aren't repeated on every object, and hit sound sample sets are applied here instead of via control points. So all this really means is that maps exported from lazer are much cleaner. Thanks Alabambi for being a mapper who happens to know programming too. And this is something that makes lazer, and especially the editor, even more accessible.
It's a common interaction where on touch devices you just hold on the screen and it becomes a right click. We do want to make the game fully touch compatible, but a lot of the interfaces are still geared towards left and right clicking, and this means that in the places you would be right clicking, you can now just hold and it will bring up the right click menu or perform the right click action.
Peppy is a developer, so he values something that you probably don't even consider: efficiently performing code. Every lazer update improves performance, but here's a couple ways it's done in this update.
There was basically a memory leak at song select, which only happened if you scrolled through a lot of beat maps and you were constantly changing between difficulties. It could cause RAM to spike up to like gigabytes. It's been fixed.
And then there's this one about efficient mass exporting of beat maps for skins.
Previously, the game would freeze while the export process went about its thing. Now it happens in the background, creates a notification, and shows you the progress of the export. So it's just a lot better.
As for the rest of the changes in this lazer update, you'll have to read them yourself. Sorry about that.